Alright, so I just went down and picked up my mail, and I got the one piece I need to start this engine on this PW. I got the choke cable, so let's open this thing up and see what we got here. This was a used cable, so let's keep our fingers crossed that it's a usable one. You might ask me why I got a used cable. Well, I got it for one reason only, because it had all this stuff on the end here. There's a little round piece that goes down into the carburetor that bends across here and stuff. All the other cables didn't have that. And this cable is broken. Great. That's what I get for buying eBay. Anyway, I'll get back at you. I'm going to see what I can do about gluing this, put some super glue on it, epoxy or some darn thing, and make it to where it's usable. So. Alright, so I got everything kind of cleaned up here. I sprayed her down with some brake cleaner to get all the grease and oil off of it. I went down to the hardware store. I picked up some 5-minute epoxy. We're going to try gluing it back together with that. Well, I'm old and my eyes don't see very good, but I think it's about as good as I'm going to get. So I'm going to let her set here for, probably about an hour, I imagine. See what it says. Yeah, we're going to let it set for about an hour. It says 1 hour cure time, so before I even mess with it anymore. So we'll see you in about an hour. Okay, so I've got the choke set up here. Looks like it's going to work. I'm going to pull off this carburetor here again, and so I can hook the choke into it. I think this here is a Chinese carburetor, and I'm going to try and fire the engine with this carburetor, see how it works. I do have another carburetor that is a factory one that is on another engine I found that I had, that I forgot I even had. And so if this one doesn't work good, then I'll grab the OEM carburetor and we'll slide that on here. Well, it looks like we put the other carburetor on and see what happens. I'm gonna have to go down to the other shop and pull that off the engine, and then we'll get back to this a little bit later, because I don't think this one's gonna work. Okay, so after a bit of examination and re-looking this thing over, I realized that I have a leak, a vacuum leak in the engine, and so somewhere along the line I made a mistake. So I realized this when I was kicking the motor over. I first started, I got the carburetor off, because that definitely has to be replaced. It was leaking gas all over the place, so that was a major problem there. But I was putting my finger over the intake to make sure I was sucking air, getting vacuum in the first place. And I was kicking the motor over, and I felt this little breeze coming up, and I'm like, what the heck? And so I did a little bit of reading and stuff on that, and you know, they say to put a cork in the intake and suck vacuum on it to see if you're holding vacuum. Well, I wasn't holding vacuum. I knew that because it just wasn't, because I wasn't getting no vacuum. So I decided, well, I'll go the opposite direction, because one of the things I've learned is that you can put pressure into something that's supposed to hold and spray some soap on it, soapy water, and if it bubbles up, then you know where your leak is. So that's what I've done on the engine here. I grabbed a piece of heater hose, this 3/4 inch heater hose. It fits perfectly over the intake hole for the carburetor. And what I've done, come on here, is use the heater hose to blow back through the reed valves. Now you don't want to get too carried away on it. I mean, just a little bit of pressure is all you need. Excuse me. And I went and I mixed up some soapy water. I just used a little bit of Joy and some water, and to make a little solution. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray it onto the engine and watch for bubbles. So I'm going to put you down here. I'm going to let you see what's going on here as I blow bubbles down through here, or blow air down through here, and do a check on the engine here. So we're going to put just a slight bit of pressure on. You can see it right here. There it is. So somehow I managed to have a leak between the head and the block. Why that is, I don't know. I suspect that the gasket is too thin and isn't sealing properly. Now, I come from the old school. I don't use sealer on my gaskets. They do say to use sealer on the gasket, but I think the gasket is your sealer. And if the gasket's not sealing, then there's a problem. So anyway, I'm going to have to pull the head back off here and see what's going on. I did retighten retorque the head to see if that was the problem. That's not the problem. It is, it's in the gasket here. So I'm going to pull this thing back apart and see what the heck's going on. Okay, so the area of leakage was right up in here. With it being there, it'd have been right in here. But I don't see anything going on there. Everything seems to be good, in good shape. There's no scratches, deformations, none of that in there. So that doesn't look to be the problem. Oh, let's look at the gasket here. So gasket. I don't see any problems there either, other than it's very thin and very rigid. No breaks, no deformations in it. Although it is kind of oil soaked, so it doesn't look like things are sealing quite right. Block here. Well, close examination shows me I don't see anything really that would be a problem, other than the fact that I think that the gaskets are just a very poor quality. The base gasket is just a real thin material. Now, some people argue, well, that'll give you more compression. Yeah, that's true, but that's also, yeah, subjective. It will. You have to cut more than just a couple thousandths to get any significant advantage. And the head gasket is just really thin. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go up. I'm going to get some OEM gaskets and check them out. If they're not any better than these, then I'm going to come back to these. I'm going to clean them up and just goop the hell out of them. So, which is something I don't like to do. And although it does recommend doing that, it's just not a good practice in my book. So, we'll see after I get back from the dealer. Well, folks, unfortunately, that ends this video today. After going to the dealer and doing some check-in, they didn't have the parts, and so I had to order them, and it's going to be another week again before I get more parts. So I do have another choke cable coming as well. The choke cable did not hold, so I've got show cable coming, I got new head gasket and new base gasket coming, and hopefully they're a whole lot better than what this stuff was, because this stuff just did not do the trick. We've got lots more projects coming up, so be sure and subscribe, hit that notification. If you got comments, please, I'd love to hear from them. And you know, just keep coming back to Oregon Hot Rod. Thank you for being here.